Welcome back everybody to the Braden YouTube channel. Today we're going to go over what's going on with the car and what's going on with the channel, so let's get right to it.
So if you think what we've done up until now is redneck, this is going to take the cake.
All right, so as you saw in my little intro there, I'm standing in front of my Civic again, which feels good. I've been able to do this in a couple months because I've been working on my house. And that is a whole mess. If you go back and watch the last video, you guys will understand why I haven't been able to make content. I'm finally to a point now where I'm waiting on people to work on the house and I can be in front of my car again where I belong. So it feels good. So what I want to do is kind of go over the status of the car, how it sits, kind of like where I left it in the last videos, and then go over some of the parts that I have acquired for it through the incredible generosity of a friend and through just, you know, general parts buying to build a race car. And then also we need to go over what's going on with Braden, his landscaping business, and the Evo. So right now, this car is kind of packed in this back room with all the motorcycles and the Z and a couple other cars, and it's kind of tough to work on it because it's a pain to get out of here and get it on the hoist. So the goal is when I get the house done, the inside of the house where we can live there, I'm gonna redo the walls in the garage real quick, just with some drywall, and then I'll have it mudded and I'll just leave it alone for a while. But after that, this car will be going to my house and I'll be able to work on it and YouTube on it every night. I don't have a lift there, but I've worked on jack stands before and I will do it again. Champ life. All right, for those of you that are new to the channel, this is my 2000 Civic Si. I've had this thing since 2010, so it's crazy to think I've had this thing over a decade, but had it since high school. Had a B16 in it because it is a true Si, not a clone. Took the engine out, built it, and then I put a Cummins turbo on it, and I made 600 wheel horsepower and 366 foot-pounds of torque on a 1.6 liter. And this thing actually moved out pretty good once it was moving. It ran, let's see here, it ran a 12.2 at 135 miles an hour. And that was on these tires as well. So anyway, we're gonna fix that problem. And how we're gonna do it is with this. So for those of you that have been loyal to the channel, you know about this. Stock engine, stock K24A2 out of a TSX. It's a 07 TSX engine. It's got a bunch of parts mixed and matched on it. Honda parts, OE parts. The idea is just to keep this thing as Honda as possible. That way it's simple and easy to get parts for. Let's see what else we got here. We got other videos that go over like the wideband knock sensor. I've got crankcase pressure sensor here, coolant pressure here, exhaust gas pressure here, oil temp and pressure combo sensor. Went over how to delete this and plug it with a Honda bolt and crush washer. I don't have a video on this manifold yet, but I need to do one because it's freaking beautiful, but we'll get to that later. And then on the fuel rail, I have the fuel pressure regulator up here, but I think I'm actually gonna go with the style that has the fuel pressure regulator on the surge tank that'll go clear in the trunk. And then just keep the fuel pressure sensor up here because if I just have one line with fuel in it coming into the engine bay, that's one less, you know, if I don't ever return, that's one less line that I have to worry about getting cut, burned, melted, whatever with fuel in it. So that's what we're gonna do. If you're curious about K-Series transmissions, I urge you to go back and watch those videos. I'm not doing that for views. I really don't care about views, but this was quite a project and there's a lot to unpack in those videos. I think there's 4 total and it totals out to about an hour. It's worth watching. So right now, as it sits, there's no clutch in there, but it will eventually be a competition twin or triple disc. I'm not sure which yet. But then getting into the gearbox, this is an 05 CRV 5-speed 5MT transmission. I did a bunch of research, found out this gearbox is common with another Honda Acura gearbox, and then I found out that the gear set that was in that gearbox is common with another gear set in Europe, which is the Euro Type R. So I did all the research, did the part swaps, did a bunch of testing, development, found out that this transmission can actually fit a Euro Type R gearbox. So it's actually an SQS dog box for a Euro Type R. So that's an all-wheel drive European Type R transmission. Pretty sick. It's got shift springs in it, so when it goes into gear, it slams into gear. It's got a good return spring on it. They're like 600% of stock stiffness, so it's really good stuff. And then anybody that's from SQS that sees this weight still here, I gotta cut that off. But anyway, haven't gotten to that yet. I think the only thing left to do at this point is get into what parts I've got and kind of go over how incredibly generous some people are, because I want to point out that I'm incredibly grateful for the deals I've gotten on these parts and the parts I've been handed. Let's just start from the left to the right here. So this is a box full of mil-spec wiring parts, and they're Amphenol connectors. They're beautiful. My buddy Luke sold off his Civic, and Braden is actually going to buy it. We'll get to that. So he gave me that stuff. There's quite a bit of money in that box, quite a few $100s. He sold me these. I got these and that KLM intercooler radiator combo, which is an incredibly nice piece of equipment for $700. There's probably $1,500 right there. So crackhead prices for crackhead car builder. This is just an old tile I had on my last setup with the B series. And then that's just transmission stuff sitting there that needs to go back in, because like I said, it's not fully assembled yet. Got the radium fuel system, this turbo. Now this stuff right here. This stuff, I could not effing believe that he gave me this. This is something that I was stressing over, you know, how I was going to be able to afford to get it, because YouTube doesn't pay my bills. I got to work, and I got to build a house, and I got to pay bills and everything. So I was kind of freaking out trying to figure out how I was going to afford to get this stuff. This is freaking insane. Now, if you don't know who ECU Master is, you need to look them up, because the stuff they make is incredibly capable and can do just about anything you want. So right here, we have the battery isolator kit. So one tab is the battery, the other tab is the out. I got that backwards. This side's battery, that side is the out. This is the CAN gateway. I don't fully understand the CAN system yet, but this is the ability, this is kind of like a, I don't know, like a tap, I guess, to be able to talk to the CAN system via USB. So it's a CAN to USB converter. This here is a CAN keypad. So all of these buttons have a message they send out, basically, that go through these 6 wires. You got power, ground, and then you've got signal. And I don't know exactly what the wiring diagram is yet, but basically all these wires communicate, or all these switches communicate through 2 wires. This is the power management unit. Essentially, this is my fuse box. This is all my fuses and relays. And as you can see, there are no fuses and there are no relays because everything's solid state. We'll go over this in detail, how to hook this up and how to operate it and how it works. But essentially, you have the power cable from the battery isolator coming to right here, and then it powers this unit. You have all your display lights telling you what's working, if anything's faulting out or whatnot, and then you have all of your outputs right here for your fuel pumps, fans, whatever. This car is still a street car, and while it won't have HVAC, it may still have a little heater box in it. It'll have you know, power windows and stuff like that, so I'll probably have a couple wires coming out of that thing to power like a 50 amp fuse box. That way I can still have power windows, my moonroof and stuff like that, because it is still a street car. I want to drive it on the streets where I'll spend most of its time, but I will track it. This here is the bread and butter. It is the engine management unit, as you can see. It is waterproof and has its own map sensor in it, and I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put it yet. There is obviously a bunch of space under the dash without the HVAC system, but it could potentially go out here in the engine compartment. The only problem is the only spot I'd really put it is right here, and the exhaust from the turbo is going to come out right here, and the manifold's right there. It's going to be way too hot. So anyway, it'll probably go under the dash and come through the firewall, but that's fine. Then here's the cool thing that everybody will always see. It'll be up on the steering column. I'll probably still have a stock gauge cluster behind it, so I'll probably put the SI cluster back. But this will be on the steering column right up in front. It's got your shift lights. It's got all sorts of features. I don't know a whole lot about this thing yet because I figured it'd be about the last thing I'd fool with. I'm not exactly sure what all this thing can do, but I would like to make it my body control module. Again, I don't know a whole lot about this stuff yet as far as like this super in-depth details, but what I do know is it is incredibly capable, along with those sensors on the engine. You know, having all of this data from these sensors will definitely be able to help keep us, you know, under control. We'll know how this engine's doing. There won't be any questions about how it's doing. Luke, thanks, man. Huge deal. Now let's talk about KLM, because they clearly make an incredibly nice part. We got a 4-inch intercooler. It's good for, I believe, 800 horsepower plus, and then we've got a radiator behind it that should be able to support that on the street. I'm not sure about the circuit racing that I want to do, so that's why if it comes down to it and that radiator does not do what I need it to do, I'll put a couple of drag radiators on either side of the car and pull one out of Acura's supercar book there and put 3 radiators on it, but we'll see. Obviously the intercooler will go right up front, and if I need the sub radiators, I'll go on the sides. There will definitely be an engine oil cooler on one side, and then depending on the transmission temp, which I need to get that sensor, there may be a transmission oil cooler on the other side. You know, another thing I kind of forgot to add, these intercoolers, they come with 2 mounting brackets on the top, and I'm gonna be doing some pretty aggressive road racing with this thing, so I need the intercooler to be mounted really well, and thing's heavy, man. It's gotta be 30 pounds how it sits. It's probably 50 with water in it. So anyway, when I go to mount that thing, I need to have brackets. So what I did is I got a 3D scanning software. So I 3D scanned the front of the car, and I'll throw that up so you can kind of see it as I talk through it. What I'll do is I'll take that scan and put it in my CAD software, and then I'll take a scan of the intercooler and put it in there as well. And then I'll be able to build prototype brackets, print them on my 3D printer out of some crappy material, double check, see if they work. If they do work, I'll reprint them out of PLA or carbon fiber or something that meets the demands of what I'm trying to do. I'd also like to 3D print my boost pipes. Luke sold me this Speed Factory catch can. I'm not exactly sure if there's a difference in the 96 to 2000 chassis, or if there's something with an EG or a DC or whatever, because these I'm sure are made for all those models, but this doesn't line up with my fuse box holes, so I gotta drill and put a rib nut in right there. You guys know how much I love rib nuts. So then we'll get the bungs put in the head cover, and then we'll basically have that hooked up. I am gonna make it a return style, so there will be a hose from here running down somewhere to return into the block. Now for the interior. This will speak to Luke's abilities building a car and his level of detail that he puts into things. Luke was going to build his car to be a track car, much like what I'm going to do with this one. Now this car will still see the drag strip. I'll take it over there, but it's gonna be kind of battled out. You see it's already got some aero on the front. Whether or not it's super functional, I'm not sure. However, I do have a rear diffuser, and I'm gonna build a belly pan because there's not gonna be an exhaust down there. I don't have to worry about heat, and I am gonna get a big Wang Gang spoiler for it. He knew that the glare on these dashes was a problem, and when I'm racing Champ, let me tell you, it's a problem. These dashes are horribly reflective, so when the sun hits the top of like your instrument visor, it just blinds you. You can't see anything. So he went ahead and covered the dash in suede, so you know, you can see it's really good stuff. I think it's called Alcantara. Super nice, and he did a fantastic job putting it together. And then if we go around the other side here, he took the this vent right here, and he knew eventually he would have like a fire bottle or gauge or switch or something here, so he smoothed it out with fiberglass. So it's like extremely strong. I'm probably going to put my fire bottle here. So I'll have the little pull for the fire. Sorry, I have the pull for the fire bottle right there. But yeah, that dash is super nice. I am super excited that I was able to get that from him, so bought that off of him. Trying to find the seats that I wanted was such a pain in the ass because there's so many out there and you don't really know what you're getting into until you are like sitting in it, right? So, and they're actually very comfortable, but you can tell they're racing seats. They're fixed backs and they're very upright. When you come out of them, you pop. So these are Momo. I don't know exactly which model these seats are, but they are super comfortable and they are actually very nice. I really like them. I need to move that one forward. Luke's a little bit taller than me, so I need to move it forward. Then he's got it hooked up to PCI. They're called ProCar Innovations seat brackets. These fit super nice. They do move the seats a little bit towards the center of the vehicle, which is good. However, like if you have stock wiring, it's pushing up against your stock wiring here. So I'm not going to have any of this. This is all coming out, but just for anybody that might get that, you might have to like notch your seat a little bit, your seat bracket, to make it not dig into your wiring. These are Schroth, I think they're called flexi harnesses, and they are stupid nice. I got to put eyelets in the car. Let's see, this is a shoulder belt. Where's a lap belt? There we go. There's a crotch belt. I got to put eyelets underneath the seats and reinforce it. So I'll have some plates welded in and get these put in properly. Make sure that they're super safe and everything's good there. So these are the old sun visors. I'm actually going to wrap those in the same Alcantara and put them up top here. No vanity mirrors. Don't need those. Now we're going. So we've covered everything aside from the all-wheel drive system. Now, like I said before, I'm going to shake this down front-wheel drive first, make sure everything is good and healthy and happy. Then I'm going to put the all-wheel drive system in it. The all-wheel drive system I'm going with is a little bit off the wall. It's probably a first, if not definitely the first. Haven't heard of anybody else doing it yet. But what I'm going to do is get some stock-style rear trailing arms that have been modified for an all-wheel drive system. Make sure that, you know, again, stuff stays as Honda as possible, because then you can get parts easier. The closer you stay to stock, the easier it is to get parts. If you don't need to modify it, don't. So my buddy Luke that gave me all this stuff, like I said, he kind of lost interest in his build and, you know, wanted to see the parts go somewhere they're going to get used. And let me tell you, they are going to get used here. They will be well taken care of, but they will not be babied. So he's basically selling his car. I don't need another Civic. I'm 1/3 owner of two, and I have two. So I've got basically a blue Civic, a black Civic, another black Civic, and a silver Civic. I don't need more Civics. But Braden has a landscaping business, and Braden is making a very wise choice to part ways with his Evo. So if anybody wants a very fast and super well-built TPG tuning built Evo, Braden is selling one for $45,000. It is definitely 9-second capable, if not 8-second capable. If you want those details, you got to go back and watch the video where it says it's back and it's fast. Go watch that one. But anyway, that being said, before anybody crucifies him, he has a landscaping business and he needs some money to take it to the next level. I help him with the landscaping business, and I agree with his choice. As much as I want to see him go run an 8 with the Evo first, he's not interested in potentially damaging it or breaking it, so he's willing to part ways with it as it sits. That thing is insane. It's so freaking fast. So if you want one, you know where to get one. Now, Luke's selling his Civic. Braden does not want to be without a car. He's not just giving up on the car game. He is just making a wise business move. He wants to build basically this, except as a drag car. So my advice to him was to do what I did, put a stock engine in it, build everything around it to handle as much power as he wants on the drag strip, which I think he wants over 1,000 horsepower, which will probably cost less than half what the Evo cost, and make hundreds more horsepower. And it'll be lighter, it'll be cheaper. But yes, Braden's gonna take that perfectly super stupid clean EK Civic of Luke's and is going to put a K-Series in it and all-wheel drive it. But he wants to race on the strip, so he's gonna have a full-on drag car, basically his Evo as it sits, but in Civic K-Series form. You know, I believe me, I pushed for him to keep the Evo for a year so we could run it and show you guys what it's capable of, but maybe the next guy that gets it will have a YouTube channel or he'll let us record it, but we'll see. I know I'm just rambling. Thanks for putting up with it until now. What we're gonna do now is I'm probably gonna pull some more wiring out of the car, because this is gonna be kind of a champ car build where I basically take everything out and start from scratch. It's obviously a little bit more street than the champ car, but what I need to do is get everything out of the interior and then put the seats back in it so I can get it over to Dino, who welded up the champ car's exhaust, and have him put my roll cage in it. And I'm also going to have him weld up my up pipe that'll come through the hood right here. So I'll just have him build it up to here, and then I'll worry about cutting the hole in the hood and everything. But yeah, that's it. Let's get to work. So I guess before we go back in the car, I just did something, you know, it's one of those things you do where you're like, this brake line right here used to come right here. I mean, it was like a millimeter away from the exhaust manifold because there used to be an evap canister right here when the car was factory. And if the EPA is watching, there's another one going in a different location, but it's not here anymore. So I was like gonna get a new brake line and was gonna, you know, get a straight one and bend it myself. And I thought, you know, I don't really have anything to lose. Might as well just push on this one. And all I did was braced it right here and then just pushed on it real gently. And it like hugged the body. And it's like really actually kind of nice. So I think I'll do is just, I'll work with it a little bit, get it up a little bit where I can put a P-clip right there, one of those little rubber P-clips, and just kind of hold it to the body right there. And then now I don't have to make another brake line, and it clears the 3 ports I want to use on the catch can and the manifold. I'll put heat wrap on it too because I don't want to boil that fluid. So this one and this one at least will get the like heat sleeve put on them just to keep them protected a little bit. But back to the interior. I have all of the wiring pulled out that I need out anyway. So it's basically literally everything except right here. That wire, those are like the fuel pump, evap, and fuel level sensor wires. Can't get those out right now because there's clips underneath that brace, and that bolt right there on like every single EK on the planet will break, and it broke the weld nut off the body, and I can't get these out yet. So once I get the car out of the clean room, I'll grind that off, take these out, and take that out. These are actually going to stay out because they're going to get replaced with a roll cage that will be a chromoly bar that'll run side to side, that'll actually be stronger than this. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the interior. What I need to do now is start taking some of that ECU master stuff and seeing if I can find a home for it. I have a 3D printer, so I can print brackets and stuff for those things. And then the EMU, I'm thinking, is going to go somewhere in this general area. I would actually kind of like to put it in the factory location right there. It'd be kind of cool. And then the battery and stuff is either going to go right here in a sealed box or in the trunk. I think I'd like to try and keep the battery and fire bottle up here just because the fuel tank being in the trunk is going to be kind of heavy. I haven't figured out yet if I'm just going to go with a radium surge tank or the entire radium fuel cell. It's very expensive. I don't know if I necessarily even want the fuel in the trunk. I'm okay with the surge tank being in the trunk, but I can also get the FCS. Oh, I'm bleeding. Right out of that finger I damaged. That's great. Okay, well, use this hand point. I could get the FCS saddle tanks as long as I can put a guard around the drive shaft to keep it from whacking those tanks. That would be really nice because they're 7 gallons a piece, so it'd be a little bit bigger than factory. And they sit where the factory tank went low and in between the axles. So that may be actually what I do, and then I'll just run the radium surge tank. I really wanted to use all radium fuel system because their stuff is unbelievably well engineered. But just given the fact that they're, you know, kind of more, they don't play around too much with the Civic boys, at least the old Civics. So, and to be honest, I don't really blame them. But I think it may be beneficial if I go with FCS's saddle tanks underneath the car and then go with their radium surge tank to feed the engine. We'll go through all that later, but that'll keep the trunk clear because it's still a street car. Like I said, it'll keep the weight low and in between the axles. Having the intercooler out in front of the front axle is going to be heavy enough. So while I'm out here, I'm going to figure out where I can start putting some of this stuff. The other thing is this thing, I've already started playing with the 3D modeling, and I can get to that later. But I've kind of got figured out exactly where I'm going to put it and how I'm going to put it in here, but I got to cut out the vents in my bumper. And let me tell you, that bums me out because I actually really like those vents. Hopefully it looks as good as I want it to without them, but you know, kind of is what it is. Yeah. Sorry I didn't really have a whole lot to talk about today. I'm trying to not do too much work on the car until I can actually film it and work on it, but there's some stuff I got to do where the car kind of needs to not be in this room. So once it's out of here, we'll be grinding hard, but we're getting there. And I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Eventually we'll be cranking on these really hard, and I'm really excited to get started on Braden's because all the pain and suffering I went through figuring this one out should pay off and make his go a little bit smoother and maybe even better. And you know, Braden's power hungry, so he won't be putting a stock engine in his right away. He'll be building it, I'm sure, so that'll be pretty cool. With that being said, I'm going to end this semi-boring video now and tell you guys that I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking with me. We'll see you next time.